All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wholesaling the Cool Way. I'm your host today, Jasper Cool, here with my dad, Mark Cool. And on this show, if you haven't listened before, we like to share a bit about our respective businesses. We're both wholesaling in North Carolina, and we just like to share tips and tricks, what's gone on over the past week, any victories, challenges, or anything that we've run into that hopefully can help add some value to the listeners. So we typically like to start off with inspiration, which could be books or podcasts or anything else that we listened to or read over the past week that was inspiring. So, do you want to kick us off with that?
Sure. Um, yeah, well, I was just inspired talking to you offline about Alex Hormozi's school, so I'll let you talk more about that. But I've heard about that a little bit on his pods and his little shorts, but I haven't really dived into it. So cool to see that you're jumping in on that. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Um, and otherwise, I revisited a book that I read a few years ago this week called The Captain Class, which is a sports-based book, but it applies to business too. So that's been fun. This guy is kind of the author was a reporter who was in sports locker rooms for like 20 years. A lot of great locker rooms like the Michael Jordan Bulls and other great teams. And he was trying to figure out what the common thread is between teams that sustain excellence over time. And so it's just cool to revisit that. And I'm a big sports fan too, so it's fun to listen to some of the stories. But like the San Antonio Spurs for like 15 years were always in the playoffs and won multiple championships, or
Yeah.
some of the soccer teams in Europe and the rugby teams that like the All Blacks from New Zealand. And yeah, there's some great stories in there. But yeah, it's like there's one of the elements is like the whole thing concept in sports of the glue guy, like that it's not necessarily the superstar that helps teams get achieve excellence and sustain excellence, but it's the glue guy, it's the glue person, because there are women's teams on the list too, of like somebody who just does the dirty work, keeps the team together, sets an example for consistency and commitment and taking things to another level. And they don't have to be like the leading scorer or the person who's the most prominent, but it's somebody who's like an engine for the team. So interesting
Yeah.
perspective. Because a lot of times you would think that the person is like the Michael Jordan, you know, but it's not necessarily the Michael Jordan who really is the reason that those teams succeed, like Bill
Hmm.
Russell is a prime example. The Celtics, Boston Celtics, if you're a basketball fan, they won 11 championships in 13 years, and that perfectly overlaps with Bill Russell's time with the Celtics. And then the next year after he retired, they didn't win a championship, and they didn't win for years and years. And
Yeah.
he was never a leading scorer in the league. He was never even a leading scorer on his team. He was a grinder and a guy who did whatever it took to win. And he probably put more effort in than anyone else ever did. He has a chase down block that's not on video, but it's legendary and epic. It's kind of like LeBron's chase down block a few years ago, but like some guy from the opposing team with like seconds left on the clock got an outlet pass past mid court, and everybody thought that was the game. And somewhere out of nowhere, he came from under the basket all the way to pin the ball,
Yeah.
like a ridiculous athletic feat. And that's an example of like he was not going to lose. And he had just missed a dunk on the previous play. So even more so, he was like, it's on me. I'm not letting my team lose. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's called The Captain Class. And and most of these guys are captains, but they're not captains based on like being the leading scorer or, any of that stuff. They're captains based on being whoever holds it together. So
Yeah.
cool concept. And yeah, I'll stop with that. That's uh, probably enough talking about that for now, but it's inspiring me
Yeah. I
this
like
week.
that. I haven't heard of that, so that's cool. I have to check that one out.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good one. I read it a few years ago, and now I'm listening to it on audiobook.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll probably buy that one after this. Um, but yeah, so
Check
for
your bookshelf.
me,
I might have sent it to you for one of your birthdays.
yeah, I'd like to read that one. So for me, I listened to this one by Dan Martell, and I think I listened to it two or three times because it was like that good, and I need to just bookmark this and listen to it probably every day. Um, but it was like a 30-minute talk that he did, and he posted on YouTube. and the title is called "The Only Skill You Need to Become a Millionaire: Buy Back Your Time." So obviously, he goes around and gives talks about his book around the country and stuff. And I've read his book, but it's still nice to get reminders, and sometimes he shares different stuff when he's speaking on stage. But for this one, what he was mainly talking about is the pain line. And he talked about that in his book, but this is just a really good reminder for me because I feel like I'm there right now. And he said, when you get to this pain line in your business as a business owner, there's three stages, he believes. There's three stages that, or three actions that you'll take at that point. And number one is to stall. So you basically like stall your growth and you're like, well, I'll just speak for myself. For me, like, I feel like I'm at that place right now because I don't necessarily want to hire more people, even though that's what I need to grow, because then it's more management on me to manage these people and train them and all that stuff. And so I've like subconsciously or consciously just stalled my business by not taking the necessary actions that I know I need to do to grow. So, somewhat embarrassing to say that out loud, but that's where I feel like I'm at right now. And then number two that he says is sabotage, which like you'll do something to sabotage your growth, which I guess what I just shared is both number one and two. Um, and then number three is that entrepreneurs try to sell and move on and do something else. And so I've definitely felt all three of those things. But he was just talking about that and just sharing that it's just part of a growth trend as an entrepreneur. So it's not like you're not alone. And that was nice to hear. And also like whether or not you decide to move on and start something else, you're going to run into the same thing at the same threshold because that's just a personal growth thing. That's
It's
not a
like the upper
business.
limit. It's like the
Yeah.
upper limit
Yeah, upper
problem when
limit problem. I mean, it's not a business specific thing. He's like, everyone's going to run into it. And depending on like where you are mentally or whatever, it's going to be at a different level for everybody, but you're going to run into that and you're going to kind of feel stuck. And so you can either, sell and start over and run into it again in a year or two, or you can, do the necessary work to overcome it. So yeah, that was really good for me. And then he went back over his like hiring ladder or whatever, like the order he recommends hiring people in. So that was a good reminder for me to hear that again. And I do feel like I kind of hired out of order, but now I feel like I'm kind of fixed that and I'm going back up the ladder. So it feels good for me. And I guess one of the things that I wanted to share with you that I'm fine to share online, but I noticed like this quarter, especially, it wasn't my best quarter in terms of revenue. And I'm sharing this because we're at the end of the quarter now, but I did notice that I handed off a lot of admin tasks, and that's been really, really nice for me because, like, years I've been doing this business and I've been doing the admin stuff myself. And it wasn't until I read his book, which was around the beginning of this quarter, where I was like, you know what, it's time to like stop doing all this stuff. And kudos to my admin virtual assistant. He's been with me since I started, and he's just really helped me a lot. And now like I'm working with him and his brother because I gave him so much stuff that like he needed some help. But he's just really helped me. And so now it's at the point where it's like I hardly do any of those like menial tasks anymore. And there's still more stuff I can hand off. There always is, but it's just felt really nice. Like this weekend, I was pulling data, and for me, that's actually something that I kind of like doing. So I didn't hand that off yet. Like I kind of like doing the research and figuring out what market we're going to go into next, stuff like that. But I used to pull the data and then download the data, skip trace the data, put the data in my launch controls, and like all that other BS. And so I finally like handed that off, and it just felt so good to like pull all the data. And then I just text my virtual assistant. I'm like, hey man, just pulled all this data. Can you just upload all this to where it needs to go? And he's just like, yep. And then he texts me back like an hour later, all done. I was like, wow. Like, and it's just like that's just one example, but it felt so good to get a lot of that stuff off my plate. So yeah, I just wanted to share that in case anyone has not gone over the hump to like delegate that stuff. It really makes a big difference to get that admin stuff off your plate. It's really
it's
nice.
huge. Yeah. And every
Um,
time you do it, I think you see more that can be done, right? It's like
yeah,
every time
definitely.
you do it, there's like another layer of, oh, and I could get rid of all this stuff. And then what it
Yeah,
does for me is it makes me feel free and able to actually think about big picture things or other business opportunities or how to grow the business instead of like, I mean, it's like Dan Martell and Who Not How from Dan Sullivan kind of go hand in hand. It's like,
yeah,
how am I going to get all this done? No, not how am I going to get all this done? Who is going to get this done for me? You know?
yeah.
Because if I try and do it all, I'm going to be bogged down and not really use my gifts or be doing my highest value actions.
Yeah, definitely. And it's
Yeah,
nice too, because like once you free up some of your time, then you can actually like it just kind of is a snowball, what I noticed, because I used to like when I needed to do something, let's say pull data or like even ordering pictures for properties is something I used to do, which only takes like 5 minutes, but it adds up. And so then I noticed like because I felt so busy throughout the day, when I needed to do one of those tasks that I shouldn't be doing, I would just go ahead and do it because I felt like I needed to do it, get to the next task, get to the next task. But then I noticed as I started handing off, I was like, oh, okay, now I have a bit more time in my day. And then every time one of those tasks came up, I was like, okay, let me slow down and record a video, and then I can pass this off. So then it was like,
yeah,
okay, I'm doing this task, but this is going to be my last time or my second to last time doing it because I'm recording a video, I'm going through, walking through, and like that was really helpful for me. So, yeah.
yeah. And that's just a like for listeners, that's leads to like a hot tip or a tool. The Loom AI thing is
Yeah.
really great. If you don't have Loom and you're trying to build process, standard operating procedures and process maps, Loom now is well worth the subscription because you can record a video and then you can tell it to create a document for you and it'll create the process map based on what you just recorded. Makes it
Yeah.
so easy to upload it to your drive or wherever you're keeping your process maps and standard procedures. And I highly recommend that.
Yeah. That's been a game changer for sure. Just that little tweak they added to their system.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it for me. I think I shared enough there, but I texted you that video, so if you want to post in the
Thank
show
you.
notes or
Yeah.
something.
I want to read the Dan Martell book because, we've talked about, I mean, some of the stuff you're talking about, I experienced when I first read Who Not How, which you told me to read like 2 or 3 years ago. I think I read it in 2021 and I immediately started
Yeah.
hiring people. I hired my admin person, then I hired an acquisitions person, and then it changed my business and changed my life because just that concept of like being bogged down in all the details and doing it all myself and feeling like I never have enough time, then all of a sudden giving a chunk of it away and being able to take a deep breath and go, wow, I can actually pick my head up and, see other possibilities. And then each
Yeah.
time. So anyway, I like what you've been sharing about Dan Martell, and it sounds like he's got a similar mindset, but a slightly different angle on it to the Who Not
Yeah.
How Dan Sullivan thing. So I want to read that book, and I appreciate you sharing the podcast. We'll put it on the show notes too.
Yeah. It's very similar. I mean, I'm sure he's probably friends with Dan Sullivan or something, but because but they're both Canadian too. I mean, they both live in Canada.
Yeah, he's
But
probably gone through strategic coach.
yeah, probably. But when it kind of reminds me of his book and his like ideas. It kind of reminds me of a mix between Who Not How and Tim Ferriss
Hmm.
because it's the same exact idea as Who Not How. He either copied that from him or whatever, went through his coaching thing. But to me, I feel like he gives more tactics, and so that's why I say it reminds me of Tim Ferriss because I reread a section of Tim Ferriss thing, which is how to hand off your email, and Tim Ferriss like literally has a chapter, it lays out step by step by step by step, and it's super helpful. And so what I liked about Dan's book is it's kind of like a mix between those two, where he's giving you these frameworks and these ideas, but he also every chapter gives you exact framework, like this is how you can implement this idea. So I think Who
Yeah,
Not How is like a great book to start with if you never thought about delegating. But then I think this one is like just a little bit step above because it gives you more exact strategies and stuff.
and the
So,
other book in this sort of family of thought is the E-Myth, which is an old book, but
mhm.
it's similar thing about how you should. The basic concept is working on your business rather than in your business. Because if you're working in your business, you can never really grow your business. You have to be able to pull back and work on you. So
Yeah,
I read the E-Myth, and then I read Who Not How, and now like I want to read this Dan Martell too.
yeah, yeah. Great point. So for anyone listening, those four books, E-Myth, Who Not How, 4 Hour Work Week, and then Buy Back Your Time. Definitely recommend all four of those.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, awesome. Well, we can switch gears now into a business check-in. You want to kick us off with victories, challenges, anything you want to share?
I'm just writing down these books so we can post them on the show notes for our work week and buy back your
Yeah.
time. um, yeah, so business stuff. Yeah, it was a pretty good week. It's almost the last week of the year. We closed one deal this week, so we had closed four the prior week, and one this week. So that's nice momentum. 5 in 2 weeks is good.
Yeah.
The deal we closed this week is kind of a fun one to go into. I'm going to skip around. I'm not just going to do a linear victories and stuff. I'm just going to bounce around because
That's
that's
all good.
so I'll just go into a little bit of detail about the one we closed this week. It was a really crazy deal. I've probably talked about it a little bit on this podcast before because it's been going on for months and months and months. But we probably have had this deal for 6 months. We got it
Wow.
under contract, and it's a really weird one because it's like 2 lots. It's 6 acres. There's an old house that's really beat up that was a rental for years. There are two mobile homes. There's an old house, two mobile home sites, two septic tanks, and a family cemetery. And it's on a dirt road, which is a semi-private road, not necessarily a public road. Anyway, we did a lot of work on this thing, and so it had the aspect of when we got it under contract, there's a tenant in the house. The tenant wouldn't move out, so we went on with that with delays for a couple of months, just trying to get them out. And finally, the seller was very cooperative and helpful, and they actually filed for eviction and got them evicted. But that took 2 or 3 months by the time that happened. And then we had this family cemetery issue, and the issue with that was that the sellers wanted the right to be able to visit their, departed after they sold the property. So,
Oh,
and we had to find a buyer who's willing to agree to that, right?
yeah.
And who wasn't scared of having a family cemetery on the property, which is kind of like behind in the woods, sort of behind the house. It's not like you're looking at it every day, but it's still there. It's there. I think there was an old mobile home there, where closer to where the cemetery was. Anyway, so we had to figure that wrinkle out, and then we had to get a price reduction, of course, because by the time we finally got into the house, it was just trashed and in really bad shape. And we sent a couple of our VIP buyers over there, people who we know are going to shoot us straight and close the deal on time, and all that. And they were just like, no, I can't pay that price. This is just
Yeah.
trashed. And so we went in and got a price reduction with the seller, who, again, like, they did the eviction, they did price reduction. So that was a blessing that they were so cooperative. And then even after the price reduction, we had a little bit of a challenge selling it. And then we had these guys come in that we've done deals with before, who are kind of a pain to work with, but they made us an offer, and then they tried to change their offer later and get it for a lower price. This gets into a long story of another deal we did with them. They're trying to like make up for money they lost on another deal. But we're like, no, we're not doing that. We're sticking with the price we said. And we had to play chicken with them, right? Like, I think we were selling it for 45 to them, and they wanted it for 38,000. And we're like, no, it's 45 or hit the highway. And we had no other buyers, so it was totally playing chicken. Just like,
Yeah.
but they agreed to the 45, and they eventually closed on it. But we had to do like an easement. We had to do an easement in the deed for the cemetery to allow so we had to figure out how to compose that with the closing attorney, and then get the people who are going to visit, and then you have to write it up and draft it and get everybody to approve it and all that stuff. So it was just a long road to get it done. We finally got it done, and I guess we made 10 grand on it. So after 6 months,
Nice.
we made 10K. you know
That's
so
okay. That's still a win.
But it's money, it's money
Yeah.
coming in. Yeah. And it was a win. Like I said, the sellers were great people. So we got their cemetery thing taken care of. So like the elderly mother of that family gets to go visit her sister's grave, and then, nieces and nephews, whatever. So that's covered. And another crazy thing I will say on top of it is the buyers used our attorney for their B2C, because they sold it immediately after getting it from us. And
Nice.
they got it from us for 45, and they sold it for 77 owner financing to somebody who's moving into the house.
Wow.
Yeah. That really it hurt. But the other crazy thing about it is they were trying to get us to drop to 38, and they're already making 77. So it's like,
Yeah.
so I got to see like a little bit more about their character as buyers. It's just like, you guys are already
Yeah.
making 33K on the owner financing. You're trying to knock us down 7. Come on, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the second deal that we sold to these same guys, where they like really tried to beat us up on the price, and then they sold it owner financing and made a bunch of money. Like the last one we did with them, I think they made 25 or 30 on top of what we sold to them for.
Yeah.
But the owner financing it, so I get it. Like they're they're tapped in. What they are is they're tapped into a market of Hispanic buyers, who don't really speak English and have the ability to fix up a house and have maybe lower standards than some other people who are willing to move into a house that's rough and fix it up on the fly, as they
Yeah.
live there. So that's the market they've tapped into. So the inspiration is for us to tap into a similar market, right? And start trying to work with like Spanish speaking real estate agents in areas that we work with who might have buyers like that, or where we can do owner financing and sell some of these deals for what these guys are selling them for. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's that deal in a not in a nutshell, in sort of a circuitous way, but I just thought it'd be fun to share some of the ins and outs of that one. Um, and then otherwise, we did sell this owner finance, this subject to deal on owner financing, and this one I've mentioned before. It fell out of escrow with these same guys that I'm talking about. Their buyer fell out of escrow. So then they tried to get the security deposit back, and we were like, no. And then they tried to get, well, we're going to pay you less on this other one because we didn't get. And I was like, no. So anyway, but this one
Yeah.
was a victory this week because we got this house subject to a few months ago. We had a buyer fall out, so we've been paying the mortgage on it for a couple of months, and the mortgage is $13.50 a month. So
Yeah.
not it's not a pittance. It's a chunk of money that hurts every time it goes out, and we're paying
Hmm.
homeowners insurance and utilities and all that stuff because we're
Right.
showing it. But
Yeah.
we put it up on, after the buyer fell out. We put it on MLS, and we tried a new MLS flat fee MLS service that's been really great. Got a bunch of agents through there, but we ended up selling it on Craigslist to a buyer who found it on Craigslist, and she's
Huh.
out of state and looking to move to the area and just ready to go. She drove up here, looked at it, made us a full price offer, and we're closing it hopefully Monday. I think we're closing it Monday, which would still put it within this month for my quarter revenue, because
Yeah.
we'll make
Awesome.
like 30 grand profit on it, a little less than 30 grand. We're giving a credit for some repairs to the house
Nice.
that she asked for. But yeah, so the nuts and bolts of the deal, just quickly, we took over a mortgage that was 165 was the first mortgage. So we took that over. Our purchase price with the seller was 195.
Uh-huh.
So we gave her 30 grand at closing cash. So we're out of pocket 30 grand on that. We're in for 195. We had an appraisal for 226 that the seller had done when she got her new loan. So then we sold it for 226. So we made 30 grand on the purchase price. And then we're making just a little bit of cash flow because the mortgage was so high. We couldn't really get the payment up much higher. We're like 1,600, 1,350. But then we're,
Yeah.
selling it at 7.5% interest. So if she pays it off over 30 years, we'll make another two or $300,000 in interest. She probably won't let
Uh-huh.
the loan. She'll probably refinance at some point, but we'll still make a chunk of money on compound interest as well. So it's 30 there, and then whatever it is on the compound interest plus some monthly cash flow. So that's what we call the 3 profit center deal. And with the subject to thing, when you do subject to with owner finance, and they
Yeah.
can be very good. We have a few of those working. So if anybody's listening and wants to know more about that stuff, I can talk to you about it. Just reach out to me on social media. Uh, and yeah, those are my 2 big victories. Otherwise, we're looking to hire an acquisitions person along the lines of the conversation we were having, that you were mentioning, Jasper, with Dan Martell stuff. We're at that crucial point where we either need to hire somebody or we need to scale back, because we're just stuck where we have more leads than one acquisitions lead manager can manage. And that puts me in a bind of like having to jump in and do follow-up calls on offers and try and do stuff, which, hey, I got a contract this week, so
Nice.
it's always fun when I do jump in and I'm able to do something, like actually move the needle. But
Yeah.
I don't want to be jumping into acquisitions and calling sellers and following up and doing intake and that stuff. But it's like either that or just leads fall by the wayside. So we either need to scale back our lead generation, or we need to get another acquisitions person. So um, we interviewed 3 people this week, and we found 2 that we liked, and I think we're going to make an offer to one of them on Monday. And that's exciting, because then we'll have 2 people managing leads, following up on offers, negotiating contracts, and we'll probably start getting more contracts and doing more revenue, which is where we need to be going, because we've just been kind of
Yeah.
treading water And it's exactly the situation you described earlier. It's just like, it's my ceiling, it's my upper limit, like, okay, am I going to break through this? And really, because when I do, like, and speaking of strategic coach, like they have an impact filter tool where you
Uh,
kind of write, it's kind of like a pros and cons thing, but it's a little more in depth. You just put in like, what's my result if what's going to happen if I do this, what's going to happen if I don't do this, what's the pain if I don't do it, what's the gold if I do it, and what's the vision, all these things. So I did that, and it's just like, if I bring on another acquisitions person and they perform even half as well as my current person, our revenue is still going to go way up, right?
yeah,
It's just like the math is there, and they're gonna, if they do one deal, help me get one more contract or close one more deal per month, they pay for themselves, and plus and then some, right? So it's kind of a no-brainer intellectually when you do the math, but it's my, like you said earlier, Jasper, it's my internal limit. It's my internal mental and emotional limit as to what I can do, or how big we can grow, or what I'm, my comfort zone is like, oh, it's kind of
yeah,
comfortable to sit here in this revenue, at this level of revenue, or this level of people to manage, or whatever it is that I'm dealing with. And now it's time to get uncomfortable, be at the edge of my comfort zone so that I can grow and have more of what I want. So
yeah.
anyway, we're bringing in an acquisitions person this week, and then next is probably an in-house cold caller who's also bilingual in Spanish, so that we can have a Spanish speaker on our team to help with our Spanish speaking buyers. And then, yeah, and then probably I do need maybe more of a full-time admin to help my executive assistant, so that we've got a part-time person now, but we need
Yeah,
somebody to do all of the admin, because my executive assistant does a lot of project management, and I think that's okay. We talked about this a little bit offline, Jasper, but he's just really good at project management and systematizing things. And I think, to keep him in his sweet spot, we need to
uh-huh.
have an admin person that he can hand stuff off to. So
Yeah,
anyway, if you're wondering about business structure, if you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering like how my business works, I'll just break it down briefly. I'm like the CEO, so my role is really visionary leader, and watching the KPIs and determining the direction of growth, and making sure that we stay on track. And then we have a dispositions team, which is 2 people. We have a manager of dispositions, and then a second person in dispositions. And we have an acquisitions team, which is a lead manager / closer, and then an SMS specialist. And then we have the executive assistant / project manager, who's doing a lot of the bigger stuff. And he has a part-time admin person. We have a part-time bookkeeper. And then we hire out our accounting, contract that out. So that's the current structure of my business. And we're closing, probably this year, I think we've closed an average of 5 deals a year. Last year we closed 48 deals for the year, so like 4 per month. So that's, just wanted to lay that out there in case people are wondering.
yeah. Awesome.
And I think I've talked enough about my business for now. So I can't think of any major challenges at the moment, other than what I just described, just the pain point of feeling the discomfort of bringing somebody on and having to train them and having to manage them and make sure they're doing well. And I think, when you were talking about that earlier, Jasper, I think that the next step for me, and maybe for you, is like to get my mindset in a place where I don't have to manage the people. Somebody else can be managing the people and reporting to me, right?
Mhm.
Like Matt Larson has Amanda. She manages all the businesses and she just reports to him. And I think that, that's the next thing for me, is just like, I love connecting with my team. And I think part of my role is to sort of inspire them and motivate them and cheer them on, right? Like, but I don't want to be managing everyone on a day-to-day basis and making sure they're doing their work the way they're supposed to do it, or their KPIs, or where they need to be, any of that stuff. I want to just pop in once in a while and just be an inspirational person, to like I said, inspire, cheerlead, that kind of thing. But I don't want to be managing day to day. So I think that's either my executive assistant's going to be doing that, or somebody else is, but not me ultimately.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's my biggest challenge right now and my biggest pain point. So, uh, sorry, somebody just pulled up on my driveway. Yeah, that's all I've got. I'm open to any feedback if you have it. If not, we can just switch over and check in about Bright Home.
Yeah, no, I'm excited that you closed that deal after 6 months. That sounds like a really tricky one. I've never encountered anything like that with a cemetery in the back. And then
Cemetery. And one other fun detail of that one is that the at one point our buyers were going in and out with their client to look at it, and they went in one day to do like a final walkthrough, and somebody had put a chain across the access road.
oh gosh.
And so then they called me, I think I was in a meeting, and they were freaking out because like, well, why did somebody block the road off? And one of the neighbors who shares that road was just like, we're tired of people coming down here. We're going to put a chain across it, which they had no right to do. And so
Yeah.
then I reached out to the seller, and the son of the seller, who's the guy I'm dealing with, is a sheriff, and he's like, no, they have no right to do that. Take the chain down. You have my permission to just take the chain down. So
Yeah.
that was a funny little, like a lot of stuff like that happens.
Yeah. That's funny.
So yeah. All
Yeah, but
right.
I'm excited for your new acquisition manager. I think I need to hire a new one pretty soon too. So excited to hear how that goes for you.
Yeah. Well, I've got more candidates too if you if you need them.
Yeah.
I'm between two right now, but I think pretty sure we're leaning toward one. But the other one's bilingual in Spanish, so if you're looking,
Yeah.
he might still be available.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome. Well,
Let's hear
yeah,
about your business.
what's that?
I said, let's hear about your business.
Let's do it. So yeah, I don't know what order I'll go in, but I guess I'll just share my KPIs and stuff. So for this week, we were actually we were down for the past, what is that, like 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks? Yeah, 4 weeks. We were down in terms of lead flow. Our launch control was just kind of, the lists we were giving them weren't performing as well as normal. So we were down in terms of lead flow, but still crushing it in terms of offers and up until this month in terms of contracts as well. So like this quarter was one of our best lead to contract ratios, which is kind of exciting. Which just means that we were requiring less leads to get the same number of contracts as previous quarters. So that was a win for me. Just, I was reviewing the numbers this weekend, but for this week, we bounced back pretty strong with the leads. We went to 132 leads this week, which is the longest or the biggest that we've had in a while. We were under 100, like I said, for the past 4 weeks. And it looks like 7 weeks ago, we had 148 leads in a week, and now we have 132. So we're kind of got a bunch of leads this last week. And that's also with two of our launch control accounts running out at the beginning of this week. So that was only on one launch control account, and then obviously our cold calling team. So yeah, pretty big win to get that many leads basically on one SMS account. So that was awesome. I think that's just kudos to giving them a new list, and that list performed very well. So that was awesome. And then in terms of offers, we were right on par with offers, and we broke out of our slump and finally got a contract this week. Also got a bunch of possibilities lined up for next week. So hopefully we can start the next quarter very strong, get a bunch of contracts next week. And then we did close that one deal I shared with you. Last week we didn't do a pod, but I shared with you, on our offline chat that I had this one deal, it was a challenge because we kind of cut our profit quite a bit on it, but we did close it and, make a little bit of profit there. And then also got a 5-star review, which is awesome. So that's always a win. And I'm glad that, we were able to close it for the seller, because that's the top priority in any of these deals, just to get rid of their headache for them. So that was awesome. And this was a big headache for him because they weren't paying rent for like, I don't know, the past 9 months. And so he was just paying a mortgage on his property and not making any sort of income. So yeah, it felt great to get that closed for him. And I feel like we are close to our goal, but it's going to be a stretch, so in terms of reviews, I'm talking about not revenue, but we got 38, we have 38 5-star reviews. And I told you at the beginning of this year, I don't remember what we had at the beginning. I wish I had wrote that down, but my goal is to get to 55-star reviews by the end of this year. And we're at 38 right now. So we have a chance. We have a chance. As you know, for anyone listening, it can be very difficult to get a 5-star review. Just like getting a contract with a seller requires a lot of follow-up, sometimes getting a review does as well. So sometimes, they just leave it like immediately day of closing, which is really nice. And
We had
sometimes it
one of
takes,
those last week. Yeah,
yeah,
we had a review, and it was just like, it's nice, but yeah, if
yeah,
you don't follow up, you're not getting a volume of reviews, like you
yeah,
said. You're only gonna get them once in
definitely.
a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I said, 38, we need 12 in the next 3 months. And so we're definitely on track to close more than 12 deals. So hopefully we'll get those reviews, but we'll see. It's gonna be a grind to get there. But I'll also follow up with all of our old people and see if maybe they'll leave a review. We did have one this month that was left. It wasn't this past week, but from this month. And we closed with her in July, and she turned around and left us a review in September. So that's pretty awesome. 2 months later, that
Yeah.
doesn't happen often, but that was awesome that she left us a review a couple months later. And that's kudos, I think, to this new drip campaign that I put in place in Podio, that includes our review link and kind of reminds them, like, not too often, but every couple of weeks until they leave a review. And so I think that was thanks to that one. So that was awesome. And then yeah, we got like I said, one contract this week and sold one deal this week as well. So that's good. Finished out the month with another sold. We did have a pretty good month in terms of solds. It looks like we sold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 this month. So that's not a record-breaking month, but it's not bad. And yeah, I think that's about it for my KPIs and everything. In terms of victories, I guess I kind of just shared a few of those. What else? What else? What else? I'm trying to think what else. Oh, well, in terms of challenges, it's on top of my mind. I shared with you last week about that one difficult seller. We were supposed to close this week, totally didn't. So now I'm kind of like just considering if I'm gonna end up filing a suit or kind of just following up. So, first things first, we're gonna send him a letter next week and see if he responds to that. And then I guess I'll kind of go from there, and hopefully I won't have to file a suit, but maybe I will. So we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. I'll keep everyone updated on that. But then in terms of closings, I actually did have some victories there because we had a few closings that were like sold and in escrow, but they were like sold, I guess in my CRM I put sold with contingencies, which just means that these properties are signed, but the buyer needs to see the house. And for a couple of these, the sellers were just completely ghosting us. And so this week I got 3 out of 4 sellers to basically get back to me, and we're moving the sale along. So that felt like a victory because it's literally been like 3 weeks calling these sellers every single day, me and Josh calling these sellers every single day and trying to get in touch with them, and finally heard back from them. So that was nice. And 3
Yeah.
out of 4, the fourth is the one that I just shared. So he still is deciding to ghost us. But yeah, that was a victory. And yeah, I think that's it. Another victory for me is that Josh took another step this week, and he like started coordinating with our boots on the ground type people. I was still doing that just because it was one of those things I told myself, like, oh, it's so easy, and like I like Duncan and I like Jonathan, these other people that we work with, and so it's not a big deal for me to call or text them real quick and like see if they'll help us out. But I was like, okay, I need to stop doing this stuff, and he took the reins and scheduled multiple appointments this week without me. So that was nice, just for like lockbox and notaries and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that was nice. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's overall it. Still a slower week with only one contract, but we did break the slump. And yeah, hopefully I'll have more to share next week for more contracts. So yeah, I think that's about it. I appreciate your help
Nice.
with forwarding me those candidates. I was reviewing those people this weekend and reviewing my own job posting as well. So yeah, I feel like I need to hire 2 more people. One lead manager, probably, and then another acquisitions. So that's definitely in the goals for me for October. Hopefully, get those people hired and in place by end of October. So yeah, that's what's next for me for now. But yeah, I think that's about it.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thanks for checking in.
definitely. Oh, actually, I'll share one more. One more victory I wanted to share with you was my automations. So, just I think at the beginning of September or August, I figured out that I actually have access to my automations. I didn't know that I did because I technically don't own my CRM. And so when I found that out, I just went in there and kind of went crazy and started just building a bunch of stuff out myself. and it's been really awesome. And when I first like logged in and started making these flows in the Podio automation thing, they have this thing where they rank you and they have different titles and stuff. So I thought that was kind of fun. And so when I first hopped on there, I think they were like, I was like a novice or a grasshopper or something like that. And they were like, this is how many hours of work that you saved in the last 30 days. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And I think when I first started out, it was like 50 hours or something that I saved in the last month. And either way, I thought that was awesome. I was like, I saved a full work week, like just
Yep.
from these automations. And now, after all these flows I built, this is by their calculations, so we don't know if it's accurate. But they say they upgraded me to the highest level, Grandmaster, and they said I have saved 365 hours of work in the past month. And so I would
Wow.
say, probably cut that in half. But either way, I think I saved like 180 hours if I cut that in half in the past month from these flows. And it kind of does feel like that because on some days I feel like almost bored, like what am I doing? And so that's like a fun feeling to have because I was doing so many menial tasks inside and outside of my CRM, and now inside the CRM is almost completely gone thanks to this thing. So that's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah, that's great. That inspires me to want to continue on with that too. Keep automating things.
Yeah, you got to check on your status, see what your status is.
Yeah, well, Ollie does most of that stuff now, but
Yeah, I just thought that was fun that they
just,
like label you these different titles or whatever. Thought that
I
was
usually
pretty
just
cute.
ask him to do stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was kind of fun. Just a fun little thing to share.
Yeah, that's great.
Uh, but yeah. But I guess to kind of wrap that up for the viewers, when I built my school group this week, even some of my friends that I talk to on a regular basis, they help me by joining and supporting me and stuff. Messaging with them and stuff in within this group, a lot of these people are not even using automations at all. And I'm like, wow. And so just for anyone listening, like if you want to work with Podio, it can be a learning curve to, kind of get these flows in place and stuff, but it's very powerful once you do. Like Podio is kind of like a blank slate when you first sign up, but you can really customize it to exactly what you like to do and what you want, and build
Yeah.
out apps and edit apps and all kinds of stuff. So that's one thing I like about Podio. And thankfully, if anyone's interested in switching CRMs and stuff, Mark, my dad, is the number one CRM guru. So he's tried all the CRMs and he can tell you exactly what to avoid and what to try out and stuff. So
I think I might even
um,
still have a spreadsheet in my drive with all the ones I
yeah,
tried. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, for both of us to still be on Podio, and also Matt Larson, which is someone that we are in a group with, he's on Podio and he's been doing this for years. It's not like we're not affiliated with Podio in any way, but I think it's one of the most customizable CRMs out there. And
Yeah, I think that's the argument for it is that you can make it into whatever you want. You can,
yeah,
tweak it to just fit your business because like, my business, we've focused primarily on land for most of the time we've been doing this. We do houses and mobile homes and stuff too, but we were able to tweak things for that. It's just, and I just created a subject to app because I do subject to deals, and I just like made a blank app and put all the stuff I needed to track my subject tos in that app, and I can
yeah,
just do that. And you don't have that in other CRMs that I've seen. I mean, there's other
yeah,
stuff that's customizable, but then you lose other features. The functionality of Podio is great. Like Jasper
yeah,
said, we're not affiliates or anything. It's just I actually worked with another CRM for 3 to 6 months. I can't remember how long I was with them, which was a great CRM, but it had limitations. And then I just switched over to Podio, and it's like there really aren't many limitations. You can do pretty
yeah,
much anything, and that's
yeah,
what's cool about it. And you can also connect it with your other, with Zaps. You can connect it with other applications and other platforms, and make data transfer back and forth like your SMS or whatever. So that's really cool too.
yeah. And for anyone listening, it's very affordable. You can sign up and I think you just pay $24 a month for the automations and stuff. But if you don't want the automations, I think it's free to just sign up and start building apps and stuff. So yeah. And also I wanted to share with you, they integrate with QuickBooks too. I just learned that this week. So you can like completely integrate your Podio with QuickBooks, and you can send and receive invoices and file expenses and stuff all from Podio, and it'll sync up with your QuickBooks. So I haven't set it up yet, but I just learned about that.
Yeah, which is huge for us because we have the owner finance deals, and
Yeah.
we're sending invoices through QuickBooks right now for the owner finance. And
Oh, that's
I'd
awesome.
probably rather do it. Probably rather set up an interface in Podio to send the invoices
Yeah.
since all our deals, owner finance deals, are already in Podio.
Yeah, I'll have to find the exact app, but if you go in the app market, there's one that's for QuickBooks, and it integrates with QuickBooks and stuff. So
Cool.
yeah, I think it's just
Yeah,
called QuickBooks Online. Yeah. So if you search up QuickBooks in the app market, it pops right up, and you can do invoices and bills and track your customers and vendors and all kinds of stuff, and it'll just sync back and forth without having to use API or anything else.
that's
So,
great.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
yeah. But yeah, I think that's about it. So do you want to wrap with any quotes or anything? You have anything like that you want to share, or you want to just wrap it up?
Yeah, I don't have anything off the top of my head. Um, I remembered another victory that small victory, but you um, counseled me to ask a buyer to pay a portion of estate fees, and I did that
Oh
this
yeah,
week. Asked for him to pay that and saved $1,400, or made $1,400 on a deal that I was going to pay all these estate fees on. So it's a small victory.
yeah, that's
It's
great.
kind of fun. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. I don't have any yeah, I don't have any quotes off the top of my head. No. Do you have anything?
Uh, yeah, I could share one. This is just one of my favorites that I like from Nelson Mandela. He says, "There is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that's less than one that you're capable of living." Like that.
Amen. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's like from his bigger quote from that speech,
yeah,
which is a huge inspiration. I used to have that on the refrigerator when you were a kid. That Mandela speech.
yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. I guess that's it, right?
Yeah, we can wrap it up there. Anyone who listened this far, thank you. Drop a comment that you want us to address on our next episode, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Over and out.